How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with the boys, Alex and Ryan. Today we're talking about Everson Pereira, interesting prospect for this Yankee team. He's definitely considered one of their top 5 prospects. Keith Law from The Athletic put him in his top 100 prospects, and he's a very interesting player that has a really interesting hit tool. He's got some good defensive metrics. Ryan's got a lot of information for you regarding this specific player. Now, he started last year in Double-A and really kind of carried throughout. Well, actually, he started in A+ with Hudson Valley, and then he got promoted to Double-A. He played in 73 games with A+, and then really went on to play pretty well for Somerset. And I think that ultimately his metrics are kind of interesting. If you look at his strikeout rate, but then you look at his on-base percentage, he's not a big power guy, but he does have some power to his game. He's a good athlete, good defensive player. The question is, what can he be in the future? So we're going to kind of give you an idea of what Everson Pereira, who isn't talked about a lot, being that he's a top 5 prospect in the Yankee system, the fact that he's not really mentioned that often, we really focus on guys like Volpe, Peraza, Dominguez, a lot of these more prominent names. Pereira kind of gets overlooked because of those headliners, but he's a very talented player that could end up being something for this Yankee team. He's on the 40-man roster. They obviously protected him from the Rule 5 draft, and he's someone that could end up competing for an outfield spot sooner rather than later. He had 29 games at the Double-A level, so obviously it's not a massive sample size. They'll probably get elevated to AAA when the season starts, or at least very soon after. So I definitely think that there's a lot to like about him. Pereira has a lot of great attributes, a lot of great qualities, Ryan. So tell us a little bit about him, because I'm intrigued to hear what you have to say, because I know you're the prospect guy here.
Yeah, so Everson Pereira is someone that, honestly, everything's there talent-wise. When we talk about how he's, been ranked in a lot of top 100 lists, there's no question about the talent that Everson Pereira possesses. In terms of max exit velocity, he's been reported in to have exit velocities north of 113 miles an hour, which is ridiculous. And we're talking really, really, really good raw power here. Since 2021, he really broke out, after the COVID season, or after the COVID pandemic, which is kind of where a lot of Yankee prospects like Peraza and Volpe, and Oswaldo Cabrera as well, kind of stood out. He has 34 home runs, 10 triples, 27 doubles, 30 stolen bases in 151 games over those last 2 years, a 140 WRC plus, 904 OPS. Those type of things, you're like, wow, he's stealing 30 bases, 10 triples, nearly 30 doubles. He's an extra base hit machine, right? But the issues are, again, he's only played 151 games in those 2 years. He's had multiple IL stints. Even last year, the reason Dominguez got a shot at Double-A is because Pereira was hurt, right? He missed the tail end of that Double-A season. He got injured on September 7th and didn't play the rest of the year. Even in his Double-A stint, he had 2 separate IL stints. He had an IL stint late in July. He was actually taken out of a game. There were some concerns that he was going to get traded, but that happened in back-to-back years, actually. He was getting taken out of the game, and it wasn't because of being traded. It was because he was having fatigue issues, or, it was an injury thing. But if you look at that stint where he comes back from injury in August and he's back with the Double-A team, 152 WRC plus, again, extra base hit machine. He had, three triples in 20 games is ridiculous. Throw on 4 doubles and 4 home runs. He got 12 extra base hits in just 20 games. He's able to hit for a pretty high average due to his BABIP. Over those last 2 years, he's hitting 285 because of a really high BABIP. He hits the crap out of the ball. He hits the ball really hard. He's going to be a high BABIP guy. He's really fast as well. Again, it's just a matter of staying healthy, number one, and then number two, consistency, right? The big thing with Everson Pereira, his number one biggest issue is his strikeout rate. 27.7% over the last 2 years. In Double-A last year was 30.1%. You want to see that number come down a little bit. Even if, you're not expecting Everson Pereira to ever be a guy who strikes out under 20% of the time. That's just not who he is. But can you get that number to around 25, 26% in the higher levels of the minors? That's really all you're looking for, right? Again, Pereira is not someone who I'm going to sit here and say has a great feel for making contact, but he can hit for a high average. He can get on base at a decent clip. He slugs pretty well. He runs the bases really well. Again, he's a primary center fielder. I imagine he slides over to a corner outfield spot, unless Dominguez has to slide over to a corner outfield spot. But quite frankly, all the tools are there for him to be a star level player. Not just a good player, not just a solid player, not a role player, a star level player.
Interesting. So, you're saying star level player. Obviously you kind of referenced the strikeout rate as a concern. And Another player that pops to my mind when I see that high strikeout rate, specifically when you're talking about a player that hasn't even reached AAA yet, you're talking about maybe a guy like Estevan Florial as an interesting comp, right? Because, Florial's kind of a 5-tool guy. We know and love him for what he was projected to be, but he never really found that groove. He never really found his place in the MLB. He always struggled offensively. Now, Pereira, when you're not able to hit for power and your strikeout rate's about 30%, that scares, for lack of a better term, it scares the shit out of me. You know what I mean? If you're not hitting 20 plus homers a year, and if you're hitting, striking out 30%, but you're hitting 40, 30 plus homers, you're like maybe like a Stanton would, you can justify it, right? You're like, that's reasonable. We get it. You're gonna strike out. We're trading one thing for the other. But is the same value coming from extra base hits? Is, like I said before, when he makes contact, it's good contact, but he doesn't make a ton of contact all the time. He's not going to be your traditional contact hitter where he's getting a 15% strikeout rate, but hitting singles and, consistently getting on base, walking a lot. I think, what is it, a 7% walk rate that in AA, 7.3%. We need more sample size because, again, coming off an injury, probably wasn't seeing a lot of pitches. Did have a 27% strikeout rate with Hudson Valley, which still is not good. That concerns me. Do you think that there's a legitimate case to be made that he can really improve that number? Because I don't necessarily know. It doesn't have anything to do with fundamentals for me. It has everything to do with just seeing the ball properly. Those off-speed pitches, if they mix in pitches that, are just, breaking and just, changing velocities, I just don't think that he can catch up at the major league level yet. I think he needs another year in the minors to really iron his vision out and really see the ball better. Because, if he gets to the majors and he's striking out at 30% now, I have to imagine he's going to be hovering like the 30 to 35% rate in the MLB level, and he's not going to hit home runs. That's a concern for me. So personally, my take is I actually see him more of as a trade piece than a future like outfielder for this team, because I don't necessarily think he fits the mold for what the Yankees like to do. I don't think that they like to go with high strikeout guys who don't hit for power, don't hit a lot of home runs. I think that they try to avoid players like this. Out defensively, I think he's solid and he'll be fine. But offensively, I am quite concerned. Do you think that maybe he would be considered a trade piece? You mentioned, you referenced before how there were rumors going on that he could be included. I would not be surprised if he was included this year. What are your thoughts on that aspect?
Yeah, so considering the fact they have Jason Dominguez, they have Spencer Jones. Aaron Judge has obviously just been locked up. He is going to be there for the foreseeable future. There's a legitimate conversation to be had about which of these outfielders are going to stick with the organization, right? This is going to be a question we have with the infield as well. Roderick Arias is coming up. Trying to get himself to the higher levels of the minors, get himself to the United States, all that stuff. You have Trey Sweeney, you have Anthony Volpe, Oswald Peraza, Oswaldo Cabrera. There are going to be questions about who sticks and who doesn't. And Pereira is definitely a guy where you look at him and you say, maybe you keep Dominguez over Pereira. But the Esteban Florial comparison, I think, is a fair one to make. Both those guys were ridiculously talented, and I think you look at what detracted value from Florial, it absolutely was just injuries, right? If he didn't get injured, if he wasn't banged up as much, if he didn't miss that 2020 season because of the COVID pandemic, I think we're looking at a lot more of a better career for Florial. I think he could at least have been a fourth outfielder. Pereira isn't the patient, high contact guy that I think the Yankees have been looking for, the way they, kind of brought up Volpe. But in a sense, I kind of like that more aggressive approach. I think the Yankees do need guys who can go out there and just mash the baseball and go out and do, things like be aggressive in the strike zone and chase and hunt fastballs or chase or hunt for action or forcing a ball in play. So I think that ultimately benefits Pereira. And at the end of the day, if injuries are the reason why Pereira doesn't make it, that's totally within the reason of probable outcomes. If, as you mentioned, the strikeout rates, he just never really finds his hit tool, also completely plausible. Don't think that's out of the picture. But there is that outcome where Everson Pereira finds his hit tool a little bit. Not saying he goes out there and, again, he has like a sub 20 strikeout rate, but he goes out there and his strikeout rate is manageable, and he hits 260, and he has a 330, 340 on base, and his power carries him to near 500 slugging. And you're talking about a guy who's a dynamic player and is in the middle of a youth movement that is still blossoming. I talk about Austin Wells as someone who can make an impact this year. Pereira is not only already on the 40-man, unlike Wells, They also got to Double A and put up a similar WRC plus in a similar amount of games played. They're not too far apart in their development, and we've already heard Wells be talked about as someone who can play at the major league level next year. Is Pereira someone who's too far behind in his bat? I don't think so. I think it's more so just finding that hit tool, as you mentioned, and just getting comfortable in AAA, and then making his graduation to the major league level, which I think could happen this year, especially since, again, he's on the 40-man already.
Absolutely. I mean, when you're looking at Everson Pereira, this is a player that the Yankees could end up actually, putting in that left field competition. Look, Brian Cashman already took 3 guys, right? He took 3 players, put them already in it with Oswaldo Cabrera, Aaron Hicks, and Everson Pereira, or rather Estevan Florial. Why? I mean, based on the fact that Florial has not been able to develop and become that MLB, star that we all hoped he would be, what's the point of not giving Everson Pereira an opportunity as well? You know what I mean? Like, he's on the 40-man roster. Give him some spring training reps. I don't think he's going to win it. But, at the very least, have him go up against major league talent and see what he's got, see what kind of, production he can curate or create, rather. Just put something on the stat sheet against major league level talent and AAA level talent. Like, we need to see him at a higher level because I am concerned about that strikeout rate. I am concerned he doesn't hit for power in that regard. So, we'll see what happens here, guys. But ultimately, this is a very talented prospect. A lot of people are very high on him. He made the top 100 prospect list for a reason. Do I see him with a future on this Yankee team? Personally, I think that he's better as a trade piece because I don't think he exactly fits the mold that we have, and especially because Jason Dominguez is going to be that prominent guy. I feel like we have others rising through the system that will be better options in the outfield. You got Judge locked in, you got Cabrera there. You still have Harrison Bader. Maybe we extend him, and then you just have Dominguez end up getting elevated and playing left field. There's so many things that can really unfold here, and Pereira may not be a necessity at the end of the day. But I'd love to hear your perspectives on this player, guys. He's a very talented one. He does have a lot of value. I have my perspectives, and of course, Ryan, you think he could be a potential star, and he has all the qualities to do that. It's just a matter of can he improve fast enough? Can he adjust his game? Can he stay healthy? That's a variable you mentioned before as an important one. So I do want to throw that into the mix there. But guys, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like and subscribe as always. Make sure to have a fantastic rest of your day. We got spring training coming up in about 2 weeks. We got you guys covered with all the news on a daily basis, and going into spring training, there's going to be a lot of it, and we got you guys covered as always. Like I said before, like, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.